Hey, I'm Turi, and in this video I'll be talking about my perspectives on the E/I preference, or the introversion extroverted preference, within the context of the MBTI for the most part. Anyway, let's get to it. This whole introversion and extroversion preference is about where we take our energy from, what gives us energy, and therefore what drains us. It's about where we are predominantly oriented towards the outer world and all that means, or towards our own inner worlds. Or at least where we prefer to be oriented. Our actual real-world actions play no part in the MBTI because it's entirely subjective and is all about what you personally prefer. It's not about what you do, it's not about what other people can prove you do, or prove you to do more often than not. It's about what you, as an individual, prefer. The fact that the MBTI is about personal preference often gets lost in the type community, where people argue about semantics and try to prove people are not the type they say they are, etc., etc. This isn't what the MBTI is about, though. There's not much objective about the MBTI due to how the entire thing revolves around individual, personal, completely subjective preferences. So the IE preference in the MBTI isn't about what you actually do in real life. It's about what you prefer to do, what you would do in an ideal world where you're free to completely be yourself. Do you prefer to take your energy from your own inner world, or do you prefer to get your energy from the outer world? Would you prefer to base your conduct on the external situation, extroversion, or would you prefer to base your conduct on your own inner ideas and mental concepts, which is introversion? Again, remember that it's not about what you actually do, it's about what you prefer. I think there's a whole lot of people out there with these preferences back to front because they're looking at things based on who they are, how they behave in reality, and not looking at it from the perspective of what they actually prefer. An example of this might be someone that suffers from social anxiety. This person would be undoubtedly typed as an introvert due to the understandings of the authors of the tests that are available online and how they're phrasing their questions. But the person might actually prefer to be an extrovert. They might prefer to interact with the outer world before looking within themselves. They might just be anchored by their anxiety into not feeling like they're able to do the things they prefer to do. This person would actually be an extroverted type, not an introverted type due to the MBTI being about preferences. Introversion isn't shyness or reclusiveness according to the Myers-Briggs Foundation. An example of the flip side of this might be someone that feels constant pressure to get things done, and to do that in the context of their world and their life, they have to always be interacting with people, things, ideas, or whatever it is. They might be so flat off their feet all the time that they're going to type as an extrovert on any online test. But it's possible this person actually would prefer to look within themselves before going outside of their own mind and body. They might prefer to take time and contemplate their decisions and actions in much more detail than they're actually able to do. This person would be an introverted type, not an extroverted type, due to the MBTI being about preferences. With this understanding that the MBTI is not about what you do or how you present to other people or anything, and is about your own personal preferences, I'd like to move on to talking about introversion and extroversion themselves a little bit more, starting with the perspectives of multiple sources other than myself. The Myers-Briggs Foundation says of introversion, I like getting my energy from dealing with the ideas, pictures, memories and reactions that are inside my head, in my inner world. I often prefer doing things alone or with one or two people that I feel comfortable with. I take time to reflect so that I have a clear idea of what I'll be doing when I decide to act. Ideas are almost solid things for me. Sometimes I like the idea of something better than the real thing. And of extroversion, they say, I like getting my energy from active involvement in events and having a lot of different activities. I'm excited when I'm around people and I like to energize other people. I like moving into action and making things happen. I generally feel at home in the world. I often understand a problem better when I can talk out loud about it and hear what others have to say. We can see here how generally people that prefer introversion that's a key word.
Like, it's preference.
They like to be alone and get their energy from within themselves. We can also see how extroverted types generally tend to be people that like to be around others and being more active. So they're less hesitant to act then, considering what was said about introverted types preferring to take time to reflect on things and to try to plan out what they're going to do ahead of time. I like this part from Lenore Thompson's Personality Type and Owner's Manual. She says, extroverts strive to broaden their sphere of influence. They want to affect their circumstances in a way that is visible to others, and they are affected in turn by others' opinions and expectations. This is definitely not saying extroverted people are sheep that blindly follow the opinion of others. It's not saying that they're conformists. It's saying that extroverted people like to react to situations in a way that fits the context. What that context is could be anything. They want to have a real impact on the external world because that's what's real to them. That's where they're drawing their energy from. That's what they're predominantly oriented towards. It's as likely that someone that likes to go to parties and befriend people and have a
good time
is an extrovert as it is that someone that sits at home on the computer trolling people on the internet forums is an extrovert. It's that external interaction and wanting to have some real effect on the world that points towards extroversion as a preference. Of introverts, Thompson says, introverts strive to consolidate their territory. They don't share their inner world right away and may resist the influence of others on their opinions and expectations. It's the exact opposite of the extroverted section. Introverted types aren't wanting to fit the context of the external situation. They're wanting to internalize it and process it, and then they'll decide what to do with it. They're not wanting to have an influence over other people. They're not wanting other people to have an influence over them. Here, it's easy to understand how it could be possible that someone might be stereotypically extroverted when it comes to how they're able to interact with people and whatnot, but actually be introverted types because they're not fitting context. They're just being themselves regardless of where they are or who they're with or what's going on. That's introversion, not extroversion. It's completely possible that the loudest and most obnoxious person you know is truly an introvert because they prefer to simply be themselves and not be encroached upon in any way. Vanderhoop in Character and the Unconscious says that introverts are those persons who have an inwardly directed mind and whose life is governed by their inner needs, and that persons of the extroverted type are primarily concerned with adapting themselves to their surroundings. I don't want to waste time quoting everyone that's ever written a book about this type of thing. I just wanted to provide some sources as a means of understanding my own perspective, which is that introversion and extroversion are preferences when it comes to the MBTI, and they're preferences relating to context. Introverted people like to get their energy from within, from their own inner world, and as such, they prefer to understand the outer and objective situations in the context of their own life, their own understandings, and their own experiences through life so far. They like to take things from the outside and pull them into themselves, and it's there that they can find meaning in context. Extroverted people like to get their energy from the outside, from the external world, and as such, they prefer to understand the outer and objective situations in the context of external reality. They prefer to interact with their environment, whatever it is, and that's where they find meaning in context. The key takeaways from this video are that this Turi guy on the internet thinks that introversion and extroversion are about personal preference, what you'd like to do in an ideal world, not what you can be proven to do or choose. And introversion draws energy from within and likes to understand the outer world based on their own experiences and inner ideas, regardless of external context, whereas extroversion draws energy from the outer world itself and likes to understand reality in the context of its environment, regardless of their own experience and inner ideas. Fun fact, we all do both all day, every day. Almost all the time. If you've got anything you'd like to say at all, feel free to leave a comment.
Thanks for watching.